The massive alien ship dropped out of hyperspace like a dark mountain appearing in the void. Its hull was black metal covered in sharp spikes and glowing red lines that pulsed like a heartbeat. The ship was 10 times larger than the small human mining station orbiting the distant planet Kepler 442b. Inside the mining station, alarms began to ring. Workers stopped what they were doing and looked up at the ceiling with worried faces. They had never seen an alien ship before. Most humans had never seen aliens at all. Commander Jake Martinez ran to the control room. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had been in charge of the mining station for 5 years. The station was home to 300 humans, who worked hard to dig valuable metals from the planet below. "What do we have?" Jake asked his communications officer. "Unknown vessel, sir. It's huge. They're sending us a message." The main screen flickered to life. A face appeared that made several people step backward in fear. The creature had green scaly skin, yellow eyes like a snake, and rows of sharp teeth. It stood nearly 7 feet, tall, and wore black armor decorated with bones. "Greetings, primitive creatures," the alien said in a deep, rough voice. His words were translated by a computer, but the tone was clear. He was not being friendly. "I am Captain Vorth of the Galactic Trade Federation. You will prepare to receive our diplomatic party immediately." Jake took a deep breath. He had trained for this moment, but seeing a real alien was still shocking. "Welcome to human space, Captain Vorth. I am Commander Jake Martinez. We would be happy to meet with you." Captain Vorth's yellow eyes narrowed. "You will address me as Lord Vorth. We do not consider your species worthy of equal conversation." Several humans in the control room looked angry, but Jake raised his hand to keep them quiet. "Of course, Lord Vorth. When would you like to meet?" "Now. We are already sending our shuttle. You will gather your leaders and wait for us in your main docking bay." The screen went black. Jake felt his heart beating fast. This was not going well already. "Sir," said his second-in-command, Lieutenant Amy Parker, "should we contact Earth?" "No time," Jake replied. "Get our diplomatic team ready, and find Dr. Morgan. We need our xenobiologist here." 20 minutes later, Jake stood in the docking bay with 4 other humans. Lieutenant Amy Parker was there, along with Chief Engineer Bob Wilson and Security, Chief Danny Brown. The 5th person was Dr. Lisa Morgan. Lisa was 23 years old and very small. She was only 5 feet tall and weighed maybe 100 pounds. Her brown hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore a plain white lab coat over blue jeans. She looked like a college student, not a scientist. She carried a tablet, computer, and looked nervous. "Remember," Jake told his team quietly, "be polite. Let me do most of the talking. Dr. Morgan, you're here because you know more about alien biology than anyone on the station." Lisa nodded. "I've studied their transmissions. The Crixians are a warrior race. They respect strength and despise weakness, but they also value intelligence." "Good. Maybe we can work with that." The alien shuttle landed with a loud crash that shook the floor. It was black like their main ship with the same glowing red lines. Steam hissed from its engines as it powered down. A ramp lowered from the shuttle's belly. Heavy footsteps echoed as the aliens walked down. There were 6 of them, all wearing black armor and carrying weapons that looked like they could cut through metal. They were all much larger than the humans. Captain Vorth stepped forward. Up close, he was even more frightening. His green scales looked like armor, and his claws were as long as fingers. The other aliens spread out behind him, their hands near their weapons. "So these are humans," Vorth said, looking at Jake's team like they were insects. "Even smaller than our reports," suggested. Jake stepped forward and tried to smile. "Welcome to our station, Lord Vorth. We're honored by your visit." Vorth barely glanced at him. His yellow eyes moved over Amy, Bob, and Danny, then stopped on Lisa. A sound came from his throat that might have been laughter. "What is this tiny creature?" he asked. "Is it even fully grown?" Lisa felt all the aliens staring at her. She was used to people commenting on her size, but the way these creatures looked at her made her skin crawl. They looked at her like she was a toy or a pet. "This is Dr. Lisa Morgan," Jake said firmly. She's our chief xenobiologist and one of our smartest scientists. This small thing is a scientist? Vorth leaned down toward Lisa, his huge head only a few feet from hers. What could such a weak creature possibly know about the universe? Lisa looked up at him calmly. I know that the Crixian Empire spans 47 star systems. I know your people evolved from reptilian predators on a high-gravity world. I know your language has no word for mercy, but 7 different words for victory. Vorth straightened, up surprised. He had not expected the small human to know so much about his people. Impressive, he admitted, but knowledge means nothing without strength to use it. Jake decided to get the meeting back on track. Lord Vorth, what brings the Federation to human space? Vorth smiled, showing all his sharp teeth. We bring you a great opportunity. For thousands of years, the Galactic Trade Federation has brought peace and prosperity to the galaxy. We invite young species to join us as client races. What does that mean exactly? Amy asked. Simple. You give us your resources and your strongest workers. In return, we protect you from other threats and give you advanced technology. Bob frowned. That sounds like slavery. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. All 6 aliens turned to look at Bob with hostile eyes. You would refuse our generous offer? Vorth asked in a dangerous voice. Jake quickly stepped between them. We appreciate the offer, but humanity prefers to remain independent. Perhaps we could discuss a trade agreement instead. Vorth looked at Jake like he had said something stupid. You misunderstand, human. This is not a request. Every species in this galaxy serves the Federation. There are no exceptions. And if we refuse? Jake asked quietly. Then we take what we need anyway. The choice is whether you cooperate or we make you cooperate. Danny Brown, the security chief, moved his hand toward his weapon. Vorth noticed immediately. You would threaten us? Vorth laughed. Look around you, human. We are bigger, stronger, and better armed. What could you possibly do against us? Please, Lisa said softly, stepping forward. There's no need for violence. Can't we discuss this peacefully? Vorth looked down at her, and his laughter got louder. The small one thinks she can negotiate with warriors. How amusing. He gestured to his soldiers. Seize them. We'll start with the weakest one. Perhaps that will teach the others about Federation strength. 2 alien soldiers moved toward Lisa, their claws extended. She stood perfectly still, her hands at her sides, looking small and helpless. Jake opened his mouth to protest, but something in Lisa's posture made him stop. Her breathing had changed, her shoulders were different, and her eyes had gone completely cold. Lisa, Jake whispered, recognizing the signs. Remember the protocols. But it was too late. The first alien soldier reached for Lisa's arm. That was when everything changed. The first Crixian soldier reached out with his massive clawed hand to grab Lisa's small arm. His fingers were twice as thick as her wrist and covered in green scales that looked like armor. He was grinning, showing sharp teeth. This would be easy. Lisa moved. The alien's grin disappeared as his world turned upside down. One moment he was reaching for a weak human girl. The next, he was flying through the air. He crashed into the wall 20 feet away with a sound like breaking glass. His armor cracked and his right arm bent at an impossible angle. The other Crixian soldiers stopped in confusion. What had just happened? The small human was still standing in the same spot, but his partner was now unconscious against the far wall. Impossible, Captain Vorth hissed. What did you do? Lisa stood perfectly still. Her breathing was slow and controlled now, like someone doing meditation, but her eyes had changed completely. They were cold and empty, like winter ice. She looked at the second soldier, who was still trying to understand what he had seen. I asked you to discuss this peacefully, Lisa said quietly. Her voice was different too. Still soft, but with something dangerous underneath. The second soldier snarled and lunged at her with both claws extended. He was fast for his size, faster than any human should be able to react to, but Lisa was no longer there when his claws reached the spot where she had been standing. She moved like water flowing around a rock. The alien's claws cut through empty air as Lisa stepped to his left. Her small hand touched his elbow and there was a sharp crack. The soldier screamed and stumbled forward, his left arm now hanging useless at his side. Before he could turn around, Lisa's foot swept his legs. All 7 feet of armored alien crashed to the floor with a tremendous bang. Lisa placed one hand on the back of his neck and pressed. The soldier went limp. 2 down, she said calmly. Jake Martinez stared at his xenobiologist in shock. He had known Lisa was more than she appeared, but seeing it happen was still amazing. The other humans in the docking bay were equally stunned. Captain Vorth roared, in fury. "Kill her! Kill them all!" The remaining 4 Crixian soldiers drew their weapons. They were energy rifles that could cut through steel. The weapons hummed with power as they charged up. Lisa moved again. She was a blur of motion too fast for the aliens to track properly. The first soldier tried to aim his rifle at her, but she was suddenly behind him. Her hand struck the back of his neck with surgical precision and he collapsed instantly. The second soldier fired his weapon, but Lisa was already rolling under the energy beam. She came up next to him and grabbed his rifle. There was a brief struggle that lasted exactly 2 seconds. The soldier found himself disarmed and on the ground with Lisa's foot on his throat. The third soldier backed away, trying to get a clear shot. Lisa picked up the rifle she had taken and studied it for a moment. She had never held a Crixian weapon before, but she understood the basic principles. She pointed it at the alien and fired. The energy beam struck the soldier's weapon, destroying it in a shower of sparks. Before he could react, Lisa was next to him. She grabbed his arm and twisted. The alien spun through the air and landed hard on his back. The fourth soldier had seen enough. He dropped his weapon and raised his hands in surrender. Lisa looked around the docking bay. 6 Crixian warriors lay on the floor, all unconscious or groaning in pain. It had taken less than 60 seconds. She was not even breathing hard. "Captain." Vorth stared at her in disbelief. His mouth hung open, showing all his sharp teeth. "What are you?" he whispered. Lisa walked over to where her tablet computer had fallen during the fight. She picked it up and checked for damage. Finding none, she looked up at the alien captain. "I'm a xenobiologist," she said simply. "I study alien life forms." "That's impossible," Vorth snarled. "No species evolves such contradictions. You appear weak but fight like a trained killer. You must be some kind of robot or genetic experiment." Lisa sat down on a nearby crate, still holding her tablet. She looked small and harmless again, just a young woman in a lab coat. But everyone in the room had seen what she could do. "I'm completely human, Captain Vorth," she said. "But I don't think you understand what that means." Jake Martinez found his voice. "Lisa, maybe you should explain." Lisa nodded. "Humans evolved on a planet called Earth. It's what we call a death world. Almost everything there can kill you. The weather, the animals, the plants, even some of the water." She stood up and began pacing slowly. "Most species in the galaxy evolved on safer worlds. They developed intelligence to avoid conflict. Humans developed intelligence to win conflicts." Captain Vorth was still staring at her. "You're saying your entire species is like this?" "Every human child grows up learning to fight," Lisa continued. "We play games that simulate warfare. We tell stories about heroes who overcome impossible odds. We compete in sports that are basically controlled combat." She stopped pacing and looked directly at Vorth. "What you saw was just basic human potential. I'm not special. Any human could have done what I just did with proper training." "That's not possible," Vorth said weakly. 20 years ago, we detected alien signals from space," Lisa explained. "We realized we weren't alone in the universe, so we started preparing." Bob Wilson, the chief engineer, spoke up. "We've been getting ready for first contact ever since," Amy Parker added. "Every human in space has had combat training." Danny Brown smiled grimly. "We hoped for peace, but we prepared for war." Captain Vorth looked around at the other humans. They all looked so normal, so harmless. But now he was beginning to understand that appearances could be deceiving, the few. "Small ones," he said slowly. "You're females. They're warriors too. Human females are often more dangerous than males, Lisa said matter-of-factly. We're smaller, so we have to be smarter and faster. Vorth's communication device beeped. He answered it with a shaking hand. Captain, this is Admiral Krex. What is your status? We have encountered some resistance, Vorth said carefully. Resistance? From primitives? How many ships do they have? It's not their ships, Admiral. It's the humans themselves. There was silence from the communicator. Then Admiral Krex's voice came back, angry and disbelieving. You're telling me that a few humans overpowered your entire landing party? Vorth looked at Lisa, who was sitting quietly on her crate, looking like a harmless college student. One human, Admiral. One small female. Impossible. We're sending reinforcements. 3 battle cruisers are moving to your position. Lisa looked up from her tablet. Captain Vorth, I suggest you tell your admiral to reconsider. Why? Vorth asked. Lisa smiled for the first time since the fight began. It was not a nice smile. Because if you bring warships to human space, you're going to meet more than just a xenobiologist. You're going to meet our military. In the distance, space began to shimmer as 3 massive Federation battlecruisers dropped out of hyperspace. They were coming to rescue Captain Vorth from a few primitive humans. They had no idea what they were flying into. The 3 Federation battlecruisers appeared in space like dark storms made of metal and fire. Each ship was massive, over 2 miles long and bristling with weapons. Their hulls were black with red lightning patterns that glowed like angry veins. These were ships built for war, designed to destroy entire planets if necessary. On the mining station, alarms began ringing again. Jake Martinez looked at his control screens and felt his stomach drop. The alien ships were 10 times larger than anything humanity had ever built. 3 Federation battlecruisers, Amy Parker reported, her voice tight with worry. They're moving into attack formation. Captain Vorth struggled to his feet, still shaken by what he had witnessed. His soldiers were either unconscious or groaning, in pain on the floor around him. Lisa Morgan sat on her crate looking calm and small, but Vorth now knew better than to trust appearances. You see, Vorth said to Jake, your station will be destroyed in minutes. Surrender now and some of you might live. Lisa looked up from her tablet computer. Captain Vorth, you should tell your ships to leave. This doesn't have to get worse. Worse? Vorth laughed, but it sounded forced. You defeated a few soldiers. Those are battle cruisers with enough firepower to crack planets. What can your tiny station do against them? Before Lisa could answer, a new voice came over the communication system. It was cheerful and friendly, like someone calling to invite you to a barbecue. Hello there, Federation ships. This is Captain Bob Smith of the cargo vessel Lucky Penny. Beautiful day for a space battle, isn't it? Jake and his team looked at each other in confusion. They had never heard of any Captain Bob Smith. Amy checked her sensors. There's a ship out there, she said slowly. It's small, maybe 200 meters long. It looks like an old cargo hauler. On the main screen, they could see the Lucky Penny. It was painted bright blue and yellow with friendly cartoon stars decorating its hull. Next to the massive Federation warships, it looked like a toy. Admiral Krex's voice boomed from the alien communication system. Unknown vessel, you are interfering with Federation business. Move away immediately or be destroyed. Captain Bob's voice came back, still cheerful. Oh, I'm sorry, Admiral. Did I interrupt something important? I was just passing through and couldn't help but notice your big scary ships threatening my neighbors. Last warning, human. Move away now. You know what, Admiral? I think I'll stay right here. These folks seem like nice people, and I don't like bullies. Vorth stared at the screen in disbelief. One small cargo ship against 3 battle cruisers? Your species truly is insane. Lisa smiled that cold smile again. Captain Vorth, you're about to learn something important about humans. We don't like to show off, but when we have to fight, we fight to win. Admiral Krex had apparently heard enough. All ships destroy that cargo vessel, then proceed with the destruction of the human station. The 3 battle cruisers turned their massive weapons toward the tiny Lucky Penny. Energy cannons that could melt asteroids charged up with ominous humming sounds. Missile launchers loaded projectiles the size of buses. Captain Bob's voice remained cheerful. Well, if that's how you want to play it, lucky penny to all Federation ships. You have 5 seconds to surrender. Even Lisa raised an eyebrow at that. Forth began laughing again, this time with genuine amusement. 5 seconds to surrender? To one cargo ship? Your Captain Bob is either the bravest fool in the galaxy or completely mad. Actually, he's showing remarkable restraint, Lisa said quietly. The Federation ships opened fire. Dozens of energy beams and missiles streaked toward the lucky penny. It should have been destroyed instantly, turned into glowing debris floating in space. Instead, something impossible happened. The lucky penny simply wasn't there anymore. It had moved so fast that it seemed to teleport. One moment it was in the path of destruction, the next it was behind the first battlecruiser. How did they do that? Amy whispered. The cargo ship's hull began to change. Panels slid away to reveal weapons that looked nothing like anything in the Federation arsenal. They were sleek and silver, humming with energy that made space itself seem to bend around them. Oops, Captain Bob said over the radio. Looks like my cargo hatches came open. How clumsy of me. The lucky penny fired once. A beam of pure white light struck the first battle cruiser's main engine. The massive ship shuddered and began listing to one side. Alarms could be heard screaming even through the vacuum of space. Impossible, Forth breathed. No single shot could disable a Federation battlecruiser. The lucky penny fired 2 more, times in quick succession. The second battlecruiser lost its weapons array in a shower of sparks. The third ship's shields collapsed completely, leaving it defenseless. "This is Admiral Krex," came a panicked voice over the communications. "How are you doing this? What kind of weapons are those?" Captain Bob's voice was still cheerful, but there was steel underneath now. "Oh, these old things, just some stuff we've been working on. Humans are pretty good with technology when we put our minds to it." The lucky penny moved again, dancing, between the crippled Federation ships like a leaf in the wind. It was impossible to track, impossible to target. Every time the aliens tried to fire, it was somewhere else. "You see, Admiral," Bob continued, "humans have been preparing for this meeting for 20 years. We knew someone would eventually come looking for us. We hoped you'd be friendly, but we prepared for you to be, well, like you are." Another white beam struck the first battlecruiser. This time it hit the command section. The ship went dark and dead in space. "The thing is," Bob went on, "we've had some advantages. We knew you were out there, but you didn't know about us. We've been watching your transmissions, studying your technology, learning your weaknesses." The second battlecruiser tried to flee. The lucky penny appeared in front of it somehow and fired again. The alien ship's engines died and it drifted helplessly. "We also had motivation you didn't have," Bob said. "You see, this is our home. These are our people. And humans will do absolutely anything to protect their families." Admiral Krex's voice was desperate now. "This is impossible. No single ship can defeat a Federation battle group." "You're right," Bob agreed. "Lucky thing for you, I'm feeling generous today. I could have brought some real warships." Captain Vorth was staring at the screen with his mouth hanging open. His yellow eyes were wide with fear and disbelief. "Real warships?" he whispered. Lisa stood up from her crate and walked over to him. "Captain, I think there's something you need to understand about humans. We don't just prepare for war. We're really, really good at it." She gestured toward the screen where the lucky penny was, easily avoiding the last battlecruiser's desperate attacks. "Captain Bob out there? He's not military. He really is just a cargo ship captain. But every human in space has combat training. Every human ship has hidden weapons. Every human station has defenses you can't imagine." The third battlecruiser's weapons went silent. Its crew had given up. "We've been a spacefaring species for less than a century," Lisa continued. "But we've been fighting wars for thousands of years. It's what we do. It's what we're good at." Captain Bob's voice came over the radio one more time. "Admiral Krex, I'm going to give you a choice. You can leave human space right now and report back that humanity wants to trade as equals, not as servants. Or you can stay and find out what happens when we stop being polite." There was a long silence. Then Admiral Kreck spoke, his voice defeated. "All ships prepare for hyperspace jump, we're leaving." "Smart choice, Admiral," Bob said cheerfully. "Have a safe trip home. And remember, humans make much better friends than enemies." The 3 crippled battlecruisers limped away from the mining station and disappeared into hyperspace. The Lucky Penny remained behind, floating peacefully in space like nothing had happened. Lisa looked at Captain Vorth, who was still staring at the screen in shock. "Now, Captain," she said gently, "would you like to try that conversation again? This time as equals?" Captain Vorth sat heavily on the floor of the docking bay, his legs too weak to hold him up anymore. Around him, his soldiers were slowly regaining consciousness, groaning and holding their broken limbs. The mighty Crixian warriors who had entered the station with such confidence now looked like defeated children. "I don't understand," Vorth said quietly. "How is this possible? The Federation has conquered 1,000 worlds. We have never encountered resistance like this." Lisa Morgan walked over to where her medical kit had fallen during the fight. She opened it and began treating the injured aliens with gentle, careful hands. This surprised Vorth more than anything else that had happened. "Why are you helping them?" he asked. "They tried to hurt you." "Because they're injured," Lisa replied simply, "and because we're not monsters." She worked on the alien with the broken arm, setting the bone with professional skill. "This might hurt a little," she warned before wrapping it in a medical bandage. "Jake?" Martinez approached Captain Vorth slowly, his hands visible and empty. "Captain, would you like some water? You look like you're in shock." Vorth stared at the human commander. "You're offering me hospitality? After we threatened to enslave your people?" "That's what humans do," Jake said. "We fight when we have to, but we prefer to talk." Amy Parker brought a chair for Vorth to sit in. Bob Wilson offered food to the injured aliens. Danny Brown helped one of the soldiers stand up. The humans were treating their former enemies like guests who had been in an accident. "I still don't understand," Vorth said, accepting the chair gratefully. "Your species makes no sense. You fight like demons, then act like angels." Lisa finished bandaging the last injured soldier and sat down across from Vorth. "Captain, can I tell you a story about Earth?" Vorth nodded, too tired and confused to argue. Thousands of years ago, humans lived in small tribes that fought each other constantly. We were always at war over food, water, territory, anything really. We were very good at killing each other. She paused to check her tablet, then continued. "But we learned something important. The tribes that survived weren't just the ones that were best at fighting. They were the ones that were also best at making peace after the fighting was over." "Peace after war?" Vorth asked. "Exactly. Humans learned that you can't build a civilization if you're always fighting. So we developed rules for war. We learned when to fight and when to stop fighting. We learned how to turn enemies into friends," Bob Wilson spoke up. "Some of our greatest allies today used to be our worst enemies. Countries that fought terrible wars now work together like family." Vorth looked around at the humans. "But your Captain Bob destroyed 3 battlecruisers. He could have killed thousands of Federation soldiers. Why didn't he?" "Because we didn't need to," Lisa explained. "Dead enemies can't become friends. Live enemies might change their minds." Jake Martinez sat down near Vorth. "Captain, what did you think would happen? When you came here?" "We expected you to surrender immediately," Vorth admitted. "Most species do when they see our ships. The few that resist are quickly crushed." "And then what?" "Then we take their resources and put their people to work. The strong ones become soldiers in our armies. The smart ones become technicians and scientists. It's how the Federation has always grown." Lisa leaned forward. "But Captain, what if there was a better way?" Before Vorth could answer, Captain Bob's voice came over the communication system again. "Station, this is Bob. I'm coming aboard if that's okay with everyone. I think we all need to have a little chat." 20 minutes later, Captain Bob Smith walked into the docking bay. He was not what anyone expected. He was a short, round man with gray hair and a friendly smile. He wore a simple blue jumpsuit and carried a lunchbox. He looked like someone's grandfather. "Hello, everyone," Bob said cheerfully. "Sorry about all the excitement. I hope nobody got hurt too badly." Vorth stared at him. "You're Captain Bob? You destroyed 3 Federation battlecruisers?" "Oh, I didn't destroy them," Bob said, sitting down and opening his lunchbox. "I just disabled them. They'll be fine once they get to a repair station. Anyone want a sandwich? My wife makes excellent ham and cheese." The aliens looked at Bob like he was speaking a foreign language. This cheerful old man had just defeated the most powerful warships in the galaxy, and now he was offering them sandwiches. "Captain Bob," Lisa said, "maybe you could explain to Captain Vorth about the defense
fleet."
"Oh, sure," Bob said, taking a bite of his sandwich. "Captain Vorth, how many ships do you think the Federation has in this sector?" "Perhaps 50 battlecruisers and twice that many smaller vessels," Vorth answered. "That's a lot of ships," Bob agreed. "How many human ships do you think are in the system right now?" Vorth looked confused. "I only saw your cargo vessel." Bob smiled. "Amy, could you show Captain Vorth our sensor readings?" Amy Parker activated the main display screen. Suddenly, space around the mining station was filled with ships. Dozens of them, all previously invisible. Some looked like cargo haulers, others like research vessels, a few like passenger transports. But now that they were revealed, Vorth could see the hidden weapons and the advanced technology. 57 ships, Bob said casually, all crewed by humans who really don't like bullies. Vorth's face went pale green. They were there the entire time? "Humans are very good at hiding," Lisa explained. "We've had 20 years to prepare for first contact. We hoped you'd be friendly, but we prepared for you to be hostile. Every human ship in space has hidden weapons," Jake added. "Every human station has secret defenses. Every human colony has trained soldiers who look like farmers and shopkeepers." Bob finished his sandwich and looked at Vorth seriously. "Captain, the Federation has been conquering weak species for a long time, but humans aren't weak. We're just good at pretending to be weak until we need to be strong. So what happens now?" Vorth asked quietly. Lisa stood up and walked to the viewport where she could see Earth's distant star. "Now we have a choice to make. The Federation can continue trying to conquer and enslave species. Eventually, you'll run into someone stronger than you are, and that will be the end of your empire." She turned back to face Vorth. "Or you can try something new. Instead of taking from other species, you could trade with them. Instead of making slaves, you could make allies." "The Federation Council would never agree to that," Vorth said. "Maybe not," Bob agreed. "But you could try. Start small. Offer real trade agreements instead of slavery contracts. Protect species that want protection without taking away their freedom." Jake Martinez spoke up. "Captain, humans could help with that. We're good at fighting, but we're even better at building things. We could teach you technologies that don't require slaves to operate." Vorth was quiet for a long time, thinking. Finally, he looked up at Lisa. "Dr. Morgan, if I take this message back to the Federation Council, they might think I'm weak or crazy." "They might," Lisa agreed, "but they might also think you're smart. You discovered something important today. You found a species that could be a powerful ally instead of just another conquered world. And if they don't listen?" Lisa's smile was gentle, but her eyes were still cold. "Then they'll learn the same lesson you did today. But next time we might not be so polite about teaching." Bob packed up his lunchbox and stood up. "Captain Vorth, I'm going to head back to my ship now. Your fleet is waiting for you at the edge of the system. I suggest you go tell them what you learned here." "What did I learn?" Vorth asked. Lisa answered. "For him. You learned that the galaxy is bigger than the Federation thought. You learned that there are species out here who won't be slaves. And you learned that making friends is better than making enemies." As Captain Vorth and his soldiers prepared to leave, he stopped at the door of the shuttle. "Dr. Morgan," he said, "what you did today, defeating my soldiers so easily, are all humans like you?" Lisa thought about that question seriously. Captain, I'm just a scientist who knows how to defend herself. If you want to see what human soldiers are really like, I suggest you don't give us a reason to show you. The alien shuttle lifted off and flew back to the Federation ship. Soon both vessels disappeared into hyperspace, carrying news that would change the galaxy forever. Jake Martinez looked around at his team. Well, that went better than expected. Lisa Morgan sat back down with her tablet and returned to her research. To anyone watching, she looked exactly like what she claimed to be, a small, harmless human scientist. But now the galaxy knew better. The universe had learned that humans were not what they appeared to be. They looked weak, but were strong. They seemed peaceful, but were deadly. Most importantly, they had something no other species had achieved: the wisdom to know when to fight and when to show mercy. In the years that followed, some Federation worlds would learn to trade with humans as equals. Others would learn why that was the smarter choice. But everyone would remember the day they met Dr. Lisa Morgan, the small human girl who was really a living weapon, and the lesson she taught them about judging others by their appearance. Humans had arrived on the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same.